Ethiopia blames Egypt for supporting rebels and stoking unrest. Kenya develops a tuberculosis treatment for children. And meet the robot chef that can prepare a 5-star meal. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. International aid has started arriving in the Haitian city of Jeremy as the United Nations continues its appeal for funds for hundreds of thousands of Haitians who are reeling from the wrath of Hurricane Matthew. The massive Category 4 storm cut a wide swath of destruction across the impoverished nation, still recovering from a 2010 earthquake. About 1,000 people were killed by Hurricane Matthew when it hit on October the 4th. The UN is asking for $119 million for life-saving aid in Haiti, with a total of 1.4 million people needing assistance. With so many left homeless and without food or clean water, the World Health Organization says there are also security concerns. In East Africa, the Ethiopian government is blaming Egypt for supporting rebels and forcing Addis Ababa on Sunday into declaring a state of emergency. At least 50 people were killed in a stampede more than a week ago after security forces fired on anti-government protesters during a religious festival in Bishoftu, southeast of the capital. The incident sparked more violence in Oromia, where farms, factories and government buildings were torched last week. Egypt and Ethiopia are locked in a dispute over the waters of the Nile River.
We know for a fact the terrorist group OLF has been receiving all kinds of support from Egypt. Its leaders have been feted. I mean, it used to be in Asmara, now they are feted in Cairo. And of course, they have been given all kinds of instructions to destabilize this country. And they have been bragging about their capacity to do so. And do so in a manner that is quite condescending, even to the very cause they say they are promoting.
Well, German Chancellor Angela Merkel has arrived in Ethiopia after a fresh flare-up near the capital, Addis Ababa. The clashes have cast a shadow over a nation with one of Africa's fastest-growing economies. On Tuesday, Chancellor Merkel told the East African nation to open up its politics and ensure police did not use heavy-handed tactics against protesters. For more insight on Chancellor Merkel's visit and the situation in Ethiopia, I'm joined in the studio by VOA Solomon Abate. Solomon, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Makori, for having me here.
So what has been the reaction of Merkel's visit to Ethiopia?
Chancellor Merkel visited Ethiopia today, and she left back to Germany. She concluded her three-nation visit in Africa by her last stopover in Addis. And she reminded Ethiopian officials that it is necessary to limit the use of forces, not to use the excessive force during these kinds of activities. And she offered training, if necessary, for the police forces in Ethiopia. And she also called for dialogue, open discussions with the opposition forces and with the people as well. And the Prime Minister, on his part, said the government is planning to reform the electoral law and to engage with the opposition parties as well.
Which is very interesting, because the government at the same time has said all that we are seeing in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, is because of Egypt. Egypt is pushing the rebels to kind of revolt against the government. Is there any validity in those claims?
Well, the government, has been accusing the external forces for all violent activities since long ago. The Eritrean government is one of them for harboring armed opposition groups there. And they were suggesting in some ways that Egyptians were trying to destabilize the security and stability, peace of Ethiopia, partly because of the Nile, as you know. But these days they started officially calling Egypt by name for supporting groups like Gumbot Sabat. Gumbot Sabat means Gumbot 7 opposition group, and the OLF, the Oromo Liberation Front, one of the oldest Ethiopian.
Yeah, but in this case, we're seeing thousands, in fact, hundreds of thousands of citizens on the streets of Addis Ababa and elsewhere. Is the Ethiopian government in some way saying that Ethiopians on themselves have no grievances against their government, and that this is all about some external powers that have the, a personal beef with the government?
Well, one of the biggest opposition coalitions in Ethiopia, that is Federal Democratic Unity Forum, and the chairman of the forum the day before yesterday told VOA that Ethiopia has been under de facto state of emergency throughout the years of EPRDF in the country because there were limited opportunities to express your opinion, opposition, and so forth. So the opposition says the problem is internal, not external.
Thank you. Solomon, we'll definitely call you back perhaps for more on this. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you, Makori, for having me.
All right. That is Solomon Abate, of Voice of America's Horn of Africa service. Now, South African police clashed sporadically with student protesters on Tuesday at the University of the Witwatersrand. The Johannesburg campus was hit by violence on Monday after the reopening following angry demonstrations that forced its closure last week. Now, President Jacob Zuma has formed a ministerial team to help bring an end to weeks of clashes between police and students demanding free education. Zuma's government says it will continue subsidizing university costs for only the poorest students. The government says education subsidies should not be paid for at the expense of other sectors of the economy, such as health and housing. Now, the Student Representative Council says they will continue the struggle for free education. Some students are demanding all universities be shut down until the government provides free education. Well, the Burundian government banned 3 UN investigators from its territory on Monday, deepening a row between the East African country and the international community over recurring political violence. The brief letter from Foreign Affairs Minister Alain Nyamitwe named 3 investigators linked to a report released last month, which identified officials suspected of ordering political opposition to be tortured or killed. Last week, Burundi's government dismissed a UN decision to establish a commission of inquiry to identify perpetrators of killings and torture, saying the decision was based on a one-sided account of events in the African nation. Human rights groups say violence has killed more than 400 people and forced hundreds of thousands to flee abroad. Governance across Africa has improved little during the past decade as deteriorating security has held back progress in other areas such as human rights and economic opportunities. Well, the annual Ibrahim Index on African Governance rates 54 African countries on a range of criteria, including education, corruption, and democracy. As Henry Ridgwell reports, Libya is among the countries showing the steepest decline.
The annual Ibrahim Index on African Governance shows almost 2 in 3 African citizens live in countries in which safety and the rule of law have deteriorated during the past decade. Presenting the findings Monday, the founder of the index, Sudanese-born billionaire and philanthropist Mo Ibrahim, said the statistics send a clear message.
This is a very strong mathematical correlation between safety and rule of law and development. And so we cannot say it more louder that we need peace in Africa.
Former top State Department official Jendai Fraser, a member of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, told VOA the decline in security is especially worrying.
It's clearly of concern because it's dragging down governance as a whole, but also because it affects the lives of people. You know, when you're talking about personal safety and national security, you're talking about life and death.
Libya has shown one of the sharpest declines in national security and personal safety. Britain and France led the NATO airstrikes that helped to oust Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Fraser calls that intervention a clear mistake.
We have lessons to learn. And one of the big lessons, I would think, is if the region is overwhelmingly against an intervention, you should hesitate. You should think twice. Another lesson should be, if you're not prepared to fix it, don't break it.
South Africa slipped from 3rd to 6th overall in the index. The report's authors voiced concern over the state of the ANC-led government following recent corruption allegations and an economic slowdown. But Fraser, the first female US ambassador to South Africa, remains optimistic.
I think South Africa has the capacity to arrest that decline. It has it in its institutions, which are fairly strong and still independent. It has it in its civil society.
Mauritius held on to the top spot, while Somalia remained at the bottom of the index. Rwanda was among the nations showing the fastest improvement, entering the top 10 for the first time. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, the race for the White House is getting more contentious by the day. Many Republicans are split on whether to support Donald Trump. Trump aggressively attacked Democrat Hillary Clinton in Sunday night's debate and won praise from his core supporters. But House Speaker Paul Ryan told fellow Republicans in Congress Monday that he would no longer defend the candidate. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has more.
The day after the debate, Donald Trump took his campaign to Pennsylvania and told supporters that the upcoming election was their last chance to save the country.
This is like Brexit, folks. You watch. We want our independence back. We want our borders strong. We don't want people coming in from Syria that we have no idea who the hell they are.
Trump remains under fire after the release of an 11-year-old videotape in which he makes vulgar remarks about groping women. Trump was put on the defensive over the videotape by debate moderator Anderson Cooper.
You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly, I'm not proud of it.
Clinton campaigned in Michigan Monday, where she kept the focus on Trump's attempted apology during the debate.
He just doubled down on his excuse that it's just locker room banter. Well, I'll tell you what. Women and men across America know that is just a really weak excuse for behaving badly and mistreating people.
Trump continues to split the Republican Party. House Speaker Paul Ryan told fellow Republican House members in a conference call Monday that he would no longer defend Trump on the campaign trail. Even before Sunday's debate, Ryan said his focus was ensuring Republicans kept control of Congress.
We talk about our ideas. We talk about our solutions. We talk about our conservative principles.
Trump's aggressive debate attacks on Clinton may have helped himself with core supporters, but he desperately needs to broaden his base, says analyst John Fortier.
The Republican base is more or less with him, but I think there's some question about is he able to attract in great numbers these white working class voters, which he has some appeal to, and is he going to lose some traditional Republicans, some upscale suburbanites who may be not so comfortable.
A new Wall Street Journal NBC News poll in the wake of the release of the Trump video now shows him trailing Clinton nationally by 11 points. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
Both presidential candidates have returned to the campaign trail, but VOA's Caroline Presutti takes us back to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, where the debate was held to see if the banter between the candidates has changed any minds.
3, 2, 1, fight!
The mood all day at Washington University in St. Louis was electric with anticipation of the night's debate. Only several hundred of these students won a lottery to see it live. College senior Max Alburn scored one of the last seats.
I tend to personally lean a little bit more liberal, I still am tending to lean a little bit more liberal, but I definitely was intrigued by the debate. I thought both candidates had some very interesting things to say.
The debate itself was more like a feud with interruptions and countercharges, especially after the release of a video Friday of Donald Trump making lewd comments about women.
33,000? Well, we turned over 35,000, so it was.
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond.
That contentious atmosphere bothered senior Tom Barker, who was also in the debate hall.
It was almost a little bit frustrating, just kind of being in there. Kind of more of
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond.
Frustration for the country than anything.
After seeing the Trump video, dozens of national Republicans withdrew their support of the nominee and joined what the Washington University Republicans had already done. They have a sign that says, "Trump scares us, too." Reuben Schuckett is the group's president.
This is not an endorsement of Hillary Clinton in any way. We just feel that the Republican voters got it wrong electing our nominee.
This Trump supporter blames naivete.
If you don't have life experiences and you haven't really been out in the world and you don't really understand, then a lot of things sound wonderful until you apply them.
Political operatives were out in force in the spin room following the debate, trying to convince everyone that their candidate won the night.
Hillary Clinton lied to the FBI when she said that she didn't know what C meant on a government document.
She was able to talk about the positive things she wanted to do. He was on the attack the whole evening.
The third and final presidential debate takes place in Las Vegas, Nevada on October 19th. That's just 20 days before the election. In St. Louis, Missouri, Carolyn Pursuti, VOA News.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, a milestone in the fight against childhood tuberculosis. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
A sharp and round blade at the end of a long handle called a koa is used to carve up an agave plant used to make tequila.
Peligroso.
Harvester Octavio Fernandez says it's a hard and dangerous job. You have to be careful. It's dangerous since you can slice your feet and your knees. But harvesters or humidors like Fernandez are not well paid, says tequila seller David Suro.
A quality tequila, 12 bottles of 750 milliliters. In the United States, average about $420. Less than $1 goes to a humidor.
Their skill is required to cut the agave core correctly, and agave harvesting accounts for 1 million workdays a year. But humidors have been fleeing the poorly paid profession. Machines are on the way, but until they arrive, manual labor is still required. And some humidors are starting to see better wages as a result. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
I'm Jeff Selden, and I work the National Security Beat. National Security Beat is anything that affects the national security of the United States, from counterterrorism to surveillance to even relations with Russia. It's one of the most fascinating beats you can have. It's probably one of the more important beats that you can cover because it touches on so many areas of the world, so many areas of people's day-to-day lives. I'm Jeff Selden, and my beat is national security.
Welcome back. It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with a look at global obesity. Lino.
October 11th is World Obesity Day, and the World Health Organization is urging countries to start taxing sugary beverages as they fight against an obesity epidemic. The United Nations Health Agency says an increase in prices can proportionally reduce consumption. For example, a 20% price hike leads to a cut in consumption by 20%. The WHO says in 2014, 39% of adults worldwide were overweight. Last year, 42 million children under the age of 5 were overweight or obese, an increase of about 11 million in 15 years. At the same time, the number of people living with diabetes worldwide has quadrupled since 1980, from 108 million to 422 million in 2014. International aid agencies estimate that at least 300,000 children in Somalia under the age of 5 are acutely malnourished following a drought. The United Nations says that the La Niña weather phenomenon, characterized by unusually cold temperatures in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, is predicted to bring further hardship to parts of East and Southern Africa, already hit by the El Niño weather phenomenon. El Niño, a warming of the Pacific Ocean, brought severe drought to northern parts of Somalia and floods to southern and central areas. The UN says 4 out of 10 Somalis, some 4.7 million people, already need humanitarian aid amid the conflict between the terrorist group Al-Shabaab and the government. Meanwhile, in Zimbabwe, the El Niño weather pattern has rendered people living with HIV/AIDS particularly vulnerable. The World Food Programme says nearly half of Zimbabwe's population will be affected by food insecurity in rural areas during the peak hunger period next year. More than 60 million people, 2/3 of them in East and Southern Africa, are facing food shortages because of droughts linked to El Niño. The WFP says many rural communities are in the grip of hunger in Zimbabwe, and this is set to continue into next year. Some HIV patients are refusing to take antiretroviral therapy on an empty stomach, and others are spending their limited income on food rather than transportation to a health facility.
Over the last couple of months, we've seen increasing rates of malnutrition in various parts of the country due to the El Niño-induced drought. That also has an impact on people living with HIV/AIDS, in that they will not be able to access enough food, which they need necessarily to make sure that the drugs they're taking every day are having the intended effects.
I get maybe 4, 5, 50 kgs if we've got rains. But last year, really, I think I only got 10 kgs or so. This year it was worse.
And the WFP says $222 million in funding will be required to provide assistance through to March 2017. Now, tuberculosis is one of the most dangerous and deadly diseases in the world. The Centers for Disease Control estimates about 1/3 of the world's population has the disease, and it was responsible for 1.5 million deaths in 2014. In Kenya, fighting TB in children is now easier thanks to a new drug that hit the market this month. VOA's Kevin Enoch has this report compiled with the help of Leni Ruvaga in Nairobi.
Kenya is the first nation in the world to introduce a TB treatment specifically for children. The flavored drugs are administered free of charge, dissolve easily in water, and ensure kids get the correct dosage.
Feeding children is an uphill task. Feeding children who are sick is even a more uphill task. And so mixing the medicine with their food meant that if the food was not eaten, then the medicine was not taken. That meant that children were getting inaccurate doses.
Inaccurate dosing contributed to unnecessary deaths and drug-resistant TB.
We know that drug-resistant TB is a huge problem, and that's why organizations like TB Alliance, where we're developing new drugs and new regimens to fight drug resistance. And we want to make sure that these products get into the hands and are developed for children as well as we move forward.
Kenyan health officials told VOA the government will do everything it can to make sure the drugs get to the kids who need them. But in parts of Kenya and other parts of the world, access to medical care and getting a correct diagnosis are challenges just as daunting as fighting the disease. Kevin Enoch, VOA News, Washington.
And that's today's health report. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Lenore Moudou. Vincent?
Well, Lenore, thank you very much. Now be sure to watch Lenore Moudou's health report every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Do you want a 5-star meal but don't know how to cook? Well, there's a robot for that. We'll be right back. Robot for everything.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In South Africa, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan will be prosecuted over alleged misconduct during his time as chief of the Revenue Service Tax Collection Department. In Ethiopia, German Chancellor Angela Merkel calls for electoral reform and dialogue with the opposition to stop violence during her visit in Addis Ababa. In Nigeria, judges will hold emergency talks following detention of at least 7 judges by secret police in a corruption probe. In Ivory Coast, the trial of former First Lady Simone Gbagbo for crimes against humanity resumes, with a witness accusing her of distributing arms. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
You're back with Africa 54. I'm Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick. Here's a look at what's trending. A growing number of parents and teachers in the United States say primary school children are being given too much homework and that this stops them from learning. Some schools are actually starting to pay attention, scrapping homework altogether. A number of researchers and academics have pointed out that there's no connection between homework and academic success. The others still see the value in homework. They say every child should be doing it, but how much? Well, that depends on their age. Well, it may not look like it, but in this London kitchen, a master chef is at work. This intelligent cooking robot is busily making a world-renowned chef's crab and tomato soup. It's all part of London-based Moli Robotics' aim to revolutionize home cooking with the power of automation. It allows robotic versions of top chefs to craft dishes in kitchens around the world. Its technology gives homeowners unlimited access to chefs and their recipes, which are then precisely recreated by the two-armed robot. Budding chefs can also create their own recipes and share those with friends and family members online. A robot that warms the heart and food. More news from the world of robots. The soft extra muscles glove helps people who have difficulty gripping things due to illness or trauma. The BioServo robotic glove is power assisted and covers only 3 fingers to help you maintain strength and sensibility. It mimics the human hand by using artificial tendons, motors, and sensors. When pressure is applied to the sensors, it activates artificial muscles in a power unit, giving you that extra strength. The robotic glove technology was developed out of a partnership between General Motors and NASA for use on the International Space Station. And that is what's trending today. Vincent, back to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Haiti. And that's our show for today. Now, be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings, Today Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC. That's Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word is something you use at meetings.
Agenda.
When NATO leaders last met in Chicago, Afghanistan was at the top of their agenda, and Russia was considered a partner in addressing issues like terrorism and nuclear weapons proliferation. This year, responding to Russia's annexation of Crimea and its invasion of eastern Ukraine will top the agenda.
An agenda is a list of what will be done or discussed at a meeting. Agendas are usually used at formal meetings, like the one in our story.
An agenda can be personal too, a secret plan that guides a person's behavior.
Now, the next time you hear the word agenda, you will know what this newsword means.